Maverick News presents The Rick Walker Show. Defrag your mind.
Welcome back, everybody. Hello, Maverick family and new viewers from all over the globe. We have a lot on tap tonight. Justin Trudeau talking about the housing crisis, and even more important, I think, to the majority of people out there, is this carbon tax issue. He says Canada's premiers are lying. We'll dig into it. Also tonight, an Australian senator, Ralph Babet, talking about digital ID, the approval of new legislation in Australia, perhaps a sign of things to come over here. Ukrainian evacuees on their way to Canada, and the Premier of Alberta has a few things to say about that. And we're going to talk about this Baltimore bridge collapse. A lot of people with a whole lot of theories, a whole lot of lying going on, I would say. What else is new? Stay with me. I've got it all and more on the other side.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau flew all the way out to British Columbia today for a news conference on housing, a major issue facing the country, facing Western society in general, because of inflation and now rising interest rates, the cost of living, the virtual impossibility for most young Canadians, most young people in the West these days, depending on exactly where you live, but the impossibility, it appears, to ever even own your own house. That Canadian/American dream of the house with the white picket fence in front seems to be evaporating. We're going to come back to that, because at the same news conference, Justin Trudeau was asked during the scrum about the carbon tax and the challenge that is being mounted politically in this country by the premiers of other provinces. I believe we now have 7 of the 10 coming out against the carbon tax. Canadians in general very displeased with it. It's set to take a firm grip on the country starting Monday, when the first phase or the next phase of the carbon tax takes effect. It means higher prices at the gas pumps, higher prices to heat your home. Trudeau says it will actually put more money back in the pockets of most Canadians. The leader of The official opposition, Pierre Poilievre, conservative leader, disputes that. He says that's just not true. He says the parliamentary budget officer has figures suggesting just the opposite, that the majority of people will pay more, which honestly seems to make more sense. That being said, I guess the way they're calculating this is somewhat complex on the government side. And the issue is raging. We're supposed to have some protests on Monday. Not surprising. It's a pivotal issue this year, and we are probably only maybe anywhere from 6 months to 18 months maybe away from an election. He has to go to the polls sometime in 2025 at the latest. Constitutionally, he can't just hold on to power forever. And this is, right now, the hot button issue, the issue that's dividing Canadians. And take note, my friends watching elsewhere in the world, carbon taxes. That's something that has been bandied about since I was a kid. And now it's becoming a reality here in Canada. We are the canary in the coal mine. You'll see this stuff all around the world, and you're already seeing it. And look at how divisive it is. Coming at a time when Canadians can ill afford this, young people in particular, and that's really what this housing announcement was about earlier today as well. So they're squaring off. There was a parliamentary committee addressing this today. We have a clip from Premier Scott Moe from the province of Saskatchewan in Canada addressing this issue. We'll start with him, I think. Yeah, I think we'll start with him. We'll go here. We're also going to hear from the parliamentary budget officer as part of this committee hearing today. But Scott Moe, not happy about the carbon tax. And he explains why here. Here we go.
The carbon tax raise is included in the main estimates, and therefore that's part of it. So I'll allow our Premier Moe to continue.
And very much, I think, important to Canadians, as this is one of the policies, and they are stacking, that is making life more unaffordable for not only Saskatchewan residents, but all Canadians as a whole. It's making industries less competitive. Those are industries that employ people in my community and quite likely in yours as well. And it is really showing no measurable impact when it comes to reducing emissions. And I would just point to the inflationary aspect of the carbon tax specifically today. And that was when the latest consumer price index came out. Saskatchewan today is at 1.7%, down under the 2% projected target that the Bank of Canada had hit, 1 full point lower than the Canadian average. And Statistics Canada had said specifically that was due to a decision that the Saskatchewan government made to remove the carbon tax from home heating. And so you can imagine what would happen to our CPI nationwide if we were to pause, first of all, and then remove the consumer carbon tax on Canadians. And I would say, where does this bring us today when we think about never saying never? Today, that same Bank of Canada over the last 2 years has increased our interest rates on 10 different occasions. Just this week, they have declared that Canada is in a productivity emergency. And I would say that we don't need to accept this moving forward. We can make changes. Never say never. There is another way, and Saskatchewan has been working towards that way for some time. The Bank of Canada had also indicated that there needs to be investment brought into our nation. We're second in the nation when we compare on per capita provincial investment today. We're up 25% last year, projected to be first this coming year with another 14% increase. And we need to, I think, all Canadians encourage just that investment, that competitive investment environment in each of our provinces and more broadly across the nation. There are opportunities for us then to take that investment in innovation and share it through commerce with the rest of the world, share it through Article 6 of the Paris Accord, for example, which this government signed and of which I worked on as environment minister with one of the previous environment ministers. Article 6, I think, is an opportunity for us to create policies that allow for that investment, and then in turn share those investment innovations with the rest of the world through commerce by employing Canadians in my community and yours, and utilizing some of the tools that we have, such as Article 6. And so there is another way. Never say never. And we need to ensure that we are looking at some of our competitive environment, those that are employing and creating wealth in our communities across this nation, to ensure that we're providing that platform to attract that capital investment, to attract those jobs, and ultimately to provide that opportunity for Canada to not be in a state where we're in a productivity emergency, but are in a state where we are leading the world with the productivity that we are experiencing as Canadians. That's traditionally, I think, what we all would like to achieve. And I hope that we would find some consensus on that today. And again, I wore my red tie in the spirit of collaboration. I wear it to our Council of Federation meetings, where we come together as you know, from different political backgrounds and different political stripes. But we come together with an effort and an initiative to, you know, find a consensus on behalf of the Canadians that we collectively represent at that table. And I would say that this is an opportunity for all of us, those that are in the minority government that we have today and in opposition, to do what is in the best interest of Canadians, not just for today, but into the future as well, when it comes to creating jobs and sharing some of the sustainable innovations that have been invested on already in our nation, and enhancing the opportunity for additional investment into just those innovations in the industries that we do well. Because the fact of the matter is this, and this is from a Saskatchewan perspective: we produce food, fuel, and fertilizer, and we produce not only the highest quality, most affordable food, fuel, and fertilizer that you can find in the world, and we produce it for over 150 countries around the world. We produce the most sustainable food, fuel, and fertilizer that you can find on Earth. And I think that's something for each of us to remember: is never say never. We can always do better, and we should be making every effort to do that around this table on behalf of the folks that we represent. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Scott Moe, Premier of Saskatchewan, one of the leading voices against the carbon tax, addressing the connection between the tax and climate change. And you're hearing from the premiers like Moe that the tax itself is unlikely to, in fact, it is demonstrable that it won't have any appreciable impact on climate change at all, but will have a pretty negative impact on the economy. At least that's what we're hearing from them. I'm inclined to be in that camp myself. Pierre Poilievre, a curious thing going on there, the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, recently at a rally calling for protests, which I thought was unusual, really calling on people to get out and protest. He really did say that. As a result, we're seeing the mobilization of some people who are connected with what most people would describe as the freedom movement. So they've latched onto that, and they're going to be out there, a lot of them, on Monday, protesting on the sides of highways and so forth. It's an interesting development, because really what I'm seeing is the Conservatives sort of almost capturing the freedom movement, those people who have been so active in protesting all the time, the flag waggers who are standing on overpasses virtually every weekend will now be out there protesting the issue that is front and center for the Conservatives. A party that, honestly, a lot of those regular protesters have been very critical of and skeptical of, leery of. It has me scratching my head a little bit, honestly, but it's happening. It's going to happen on Monday, as the protesters and the movement seek to remain relevant. We've seen an evolution, a transition from one issue to another issue to another issue, from lockdowns, mask mandates, protests dealing with the thing in their arm, issues layered on top of other issues, LGBTQ, drag time story queen, save the children, all this stuff, and now the carbon tax, which is really an issue that the Conservatives have taken the lead on. PPC as well, People's Party of Canada, kind of in there on that, but I wouldn't say it's their signature issue. It is for the Conservatives. Now, the protests on Monday, whatever they amount to, I don't know, but that will definitely be tied to the Conservatives in a way, or at least they'll be benefiting the Conservatives. And you have 7 out of the 10 premiers anti-carbon tax, saying Trudeau is basically lying when he's telling people that they'll get more money back in their pockets as a result of this carbon tax in the end. I think Trudeau's saying 8 out of 10 families will receive more back than they pay out. And then some people are saying, well, why tax at all? And I kind of agree with that. Why go through the process of taxing people only to then just give it back to them? It's because if you look at the way the carbon tax is supposed to work, they'll tax everybody on the use of energy, gasoline, natural gas, propane, carbon-based fuels. And then the plan would be to redistribute the money that they take in, giving funds to whatever demographic or socioeconomic group they feel is most deserving, that they'll have the formula laid out in the, with Revenue Canada, so that at tax time you'll get a rebate back, or at the appropriate time you get a check in the mail. So these guys get this much back, those guys get that. It's a form of socialism, but it's also environmental and social engineering. Trudeau, though, saying that when he's being accused of lying, it's actually the premiers who are lying about this. Pierre Poilievre saying that we're going to be looking at a 23% increase in this carbon tax on Monday. That's the way it's written. I received another email today, a mass email. That's exactly what it says in the email. What does it really translate into? Why are people really upset? What are they really going to be up against? 3 cents a liter at the pump. That's what it will mean on average across the country on Monday. Now, it's not going to end there. These increases will be incremental over the next number of years, like the next 6 years to 2030. 2024 now, so really 5.5. So you'll see more and more and more increases as we go along. Now, you don't like it? You can vote and get rid of him in the next election. Canadians can do that. Will that happen? Canadians do a lot of stupid things, it seems. It seems the more they're offered for free, the more stupider they get. And they keep on voting for that free stuff. Well, in any case, today, Trudeau asked about this carbon tax battle that is raging. It is, I would say, the number one political issue in the country right now, and it is about to come to a head on Monday. Here he is saying, pushing back on these accusations, these claims from premiers that this is going to have a negative impact on the economy, a negative impact on families, and won't do anything to help the environment.
Hi there, Ethan Sawyer, CBC News. My question is about the carbon tax. Are you open to sitting down with the premiers to discuss their concerns about the carbon tax increase?
Over the past number of years, I have sat down with every premier in the country to talk about everything that we are doing together to fight climate change and everything we need to continue to do, not just to fight climate change, but to put more money in the pockets of Canadians. Conservative premiers across this country are misleading Canadians, are not telling the truth. 8 out of 10 families across the country in federal backstop jurisdictions make more money with the Canada carbon rebate than it costs with the price on pollution. So not only are we fighting climate change and reducing emissions, but we're putting more money back in the pockets of families, particularly in low and middle income families across the country. It's basic math that the Parliamentary Budget Officer has confirmed time and time again. But for ideological reasons or reasons of pure partisanship, conservative politicians across this country are not telling the truth to Canadians. And that's why I called them out. And I'm going to continue to call them out and remind them that if they really don't like our approach to pricing pollution, they can develop their own approach. Here in BC, that's what a BC more conservative government did years ago in creating Canada's first price on pollution. Quebec did the same. Now, we expect everyone to hit the same level of ambition in the fight against climate change, because that's fair and that's important if we're going to actually make a difference in the extreme weather events that we're seeing across the country and around the world that are coming. So yes, people need to fight climate change, but any province that wants to put forward a similarly robust way to fight climate change, but do it in a way that works for them, is more than welcome to, and has been from the very beginning of our price on pollution. But conservative premiers in general would rather complain and attack and mislead Canadians for narrow political gain because of both an ideological objection, apparently, to fighting climate change, but also to an unwillingness to recognize that we are putting more money in people's pockets with rebate checks that Pierre Poilievre wants to take away from Canadians. And to put an even clearer point on it, we announced a doubling of the rural top-up that hits millions of Canadians across the country, and that's being held up in the House of Commons by Pierre Poilievre and his Conservative Party, that are preventing that doubling of the rural top-up, money in the pockets of Canadian living in rural communities across the country, from having that money to help with the high cost of living on every different level. That's irresponsible by Conservative premiers, and I'm going to continue to call out all Conservative politicians who are doing that.
Thanks. One follow-up. CSE confirms Canada has been targeted by the same hackers the US and UK have sanctioned for an alleged cyber espionage campaign tied to China.
Okay, we're going to stop there. I'm going to come back to that cyber stuff because that's going to tie into our discussion in a little while on this ship that ran into the bridge in Baltimore. So don't go anywhere, Justin. We're coming back to you. But right now, what we're going to do is we're going to listen to the Parliamentary Budget Officer himself to see what he actually says about this carbon tax, which Justin Trudeau says puts more money into people's pockets. He says the Parliamentary Budget Officer has confirmed it over and over again. Well, I have a clip of the PBO in this parliamentary committee today. Let's hear what he says, and you can figure it out with me, I guess.
Very much to our Officer of Parliament, who always does a great job. I'd like to talk about the 22nd of November 2022 report. No, sorry, 2022 report, yes. The report where you analysed the impact of climate change on Canada's GDP. And I think that you arrived at the conclusion that it was about 1% as a result solely of climate change. Could you elaborate?
So he's going to get into
that,
this, and then I think he's going to make a
analysis
reference
that you
to
did on
the actual
climate
tax
change's
as part of
impact on the
this.
GDP of Canada. Do you actually remember? Well, I don't have that good a memory because we produce many reports each and every year, but I do have the report actually here. So our estimations based on external sources, including the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, is that there were temperature changes to the tune of 0.9 degrees surface temperatures, an increase in precipitation compared to the 1991 and 2010 averages, and that has already reduced the GDP by 2.08%, and the ongoing effects of climate change will further reduce GDP by an additional 1.6% in the upcoming years. And we've based that on a number of hypotheses, factoring in climate mitigation efforts and subject to the objectives being met. Now, what about your most recent report on the price of pollution? And I think that my colleague, Mr. Husmerchuk, mentioned this earlier, but I just want to get a handle on this. When you conduct an economic impact...
I just want to stop there for a second. So he's saying that our gross domestic product has been diminished already by, what was it, 2.5 or 2.9% because of climate change? There's something wonky going on with that. Our gross domestic product, the total output nationally, diminished by 2.9, 2.8, whatever it was, 2 point something percent. I think it was approaching 3%. That's massive. And he's saying another 1.6% reduction in gross domestic product in upcoming years. He wasn't specific. It must be more specific than that in the report itself. But saying in upcoming years, that's huge. I'm not buying it. They're calculating that using some strange formula. You can make stats say anything you want, and depending on the methodology you use or how you approach something, you could come up with a whole wide range of figures. But to say that our gross domestic product in Canada reduced by that much, do you know how much money that is? Our GDP, the total value of goods and services, I'm just looking it up here right now. Total value of goods and services produced in the country, $1.64 trillion. It represents 0.95% of the entire world economy. Canada's GDP has grown significantly from $383 million in 1870 to $2.03 trillion in 2016. Those are the most recent figures available to me right here. That's huge, especially for a small country like ours. And when I say small, I mean small in terms of population. That's a whole lot of production. And yet we're not seeing any productivity growth. I'm just not buying. You know, if you've got trillions of dollars worth of productivity there, and if you were to chop off 2.9%, I don't know. I'd have to do the math in a calculator. But let's go back. Listen to more of this. We're getting into the carbon tax part of this now. Will it really put more money? Will this tax put more money in the pockets of Canadians?
Analysis. Are you presupposing that there are no technological advancements over that decade? Well, there are a number of variables, and they're not constant variables. Our modeling, in fact, does factor in climate change and changes in technology. But this study is through till 2030, which is kind of a short time frame for Canada's economy. And what's often mentioned in briefings is that nothing points to the fact that there would be an economic advantage after 2030, but between now and 2030, those costs are measurable, and the benefits of a transition to a less carbon-intensive economy will still not be fully implemented. We have time. This process is quite quick, but we haven't yet incorporated the new technologies that will help to offset the damage caused by climate change. We have relative data concerning on the use of fossil fuels, and if we eliminate them quickly, well, there is an upshot to that. They're stranded assets that would be taken out of circulation before their normal end of life cycle. So to a large extent, that explains the costs. Question: most economists are going to say, and there are Nobel Prize winners who've said this, that they say that it's important to have a price on carbon. It indicates to the market, this is the direction we're heading in. If you use X, Y, or Z product and it's carbon intensive, you're going to pay the price. And consumers understand, they know that they're better off if they buy an electric vehicle, because they know that they're not going to have to pay for gas, for example. Now, in your analyses, do you look at those kinds of factors? Response: well, we do take into account behavioral aspects in our modeling. For example, the impact of a carbon tax that is maintained and actually increases. But as I said, we're talking about a 5 or a 6 year time frame, and that's not enough to offset for the negative impacts to be offset by the positive impacts. But we nevertheless need to have some kind of planning, to have some kind of certainty, and that would demonstrate that there are benefits to carbon pricing.
Inform farmers that they are eligible for a part of the rebate for the price on pollution that they pay. It's not the full price, but it's up to $1.86 per farm expense. So I'm just encouraging them to sign up, as it's not the full price. And I'm sure my colleague, Mr. Lawrence, and obviously Ms. Cramp-Newman, who have farmers in their area, would encourage them to sign up. So, merci, thank you, Chair.
So it's not basic math at all. In fact, it's very complex math. I would say what they've done is they've come up with a formula. And you just heard the PBO. If you really listen to him carefully, he's saying that this plan is being ruled out over 5 or 6 years to 2030. But really, overall, you just heard him say it, that even during that time, the benefits that they expect to realize from the carbon tax may not offset the negatives from it in that amount of time, but they're trying to look long term, is what I got from what he said. It's not basic math at all. They are molding and adjusting and playing with numbers and making, I would say, probably a lot of assumptions. My guess is, without seeing, I have to guess because I don't have access to all of their data, and I certainly don't see how exactly they're calculating all of this. But just from listening to him, I'm thinking right off the bat that their methodology is flawed, which is almost to be expected on this issue because they have been consistently wrong through history when it comes to the climate change issue. Even when you're looking at, this data that he's citing with regard to the amount of warming that we're seeing on the surface of the planet or here in Canada, he wasn't really specific on that. It smacks of faulty methodology. If it was 2.9%, maybe I heard him wrong, but regardless, it's somewhere between 2.5 and 2.9, whatever number he cited. So I just did the calculation here. Do you know how much money that is? That it would have been sucked out of the Canadian economy? And from the way he was talking about it, it seems like he was making a reference to just within a 1 or 2 year period, for $47.5 billion. A reduction in our GDP because of climate change? Sorry, I hardly think so. Even if climate change is a major factor environmentally, and then you look at the social and socioeconomic and just the economic impacts of climate change, I don't think that the climate change itself at this point, over the last few years, there's not an appreciable enough, there's not a significant enough change in the weather to result, in my view, I can't see it at all. I can't see it having any impact. Like, I mean, zero. Why would we be producing fewer cars? Or why would we even be producing less corn? There may be other factors coming into play. Maybe the government imposing new regulations on fertilizers, for instance, or the way farmland can be used, or zoning less for industrial purposes. I would say it isn't so much the climate changing, it's the government policies which are supposed to address that issue that are very likely the reasons for any identifiable change in GDP. I don't think we're producing less of anything because it's raining more, or there's sun shining more, or we got a little more snow one year and a little less the next year, or if indeed there really was a change of like point blah 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 percent whatever in temperature overall average, it's not enough for human productivity to have changed here in Canada at all. And if GDP has dropped that much, it doesn't even make sense, because we have all this new immigration coming in. Isn't that supposed to be having some impact on output as well and consumption? They're cooking numbers. It's just that simple. These numbers don't make sense. Justin Trudeau's basic math doesn't make sense. This carbon tax doesn't make sense. That's why people are going out to protest on Monday. Now, how far do you want to go with your protest over 3 cents per liter at the pump when we get to go to the polls and kick the guy out within a year or so? That's where the real solution lies. But the Conservatives are certainly capitalizing on this. They are going to make use of this starting Monday in a big way. Well, they've already started. In fact, here's the thing. If Justin Trudeau is able to hang on long enough to get through another budget and have this phase of the carbon tax implemented, and then if he is able to demonstrate and Canadians actually experience more money in their pockets as a result of the carbon tax, then he'll be able to then point his finger at the Conservatives, including Paul Yevon, and say, "Told you so." And then maybe we've got a whole different scenario on our hands for the next election. I don't know if it will have that much impact, but right now, Poilievre is scoring big points on the carbon tax issue at Trudeau's expense. And it doesn't make sense to me. I think that Trudeau has left himself wide open, and every time he sits there and says that it's basic math, I think people roll their eyes, justifiably shake their heads, and think he's lying. The economy is suffering. The economy is in trouble. We've just seen that official from the Bank of Canada just yesterday come out and say that we are in an economic emergency because of inflation and stagnant productivity, maybe even declining productivity. That is because of government policies. That is because of Justin Trudeau printing way too much money and giving away free money for a little while, and then actually trying to claw a lot of it back from people who can't afford to pay it back because they needed the money during the pandemic. So it got spent. Now they don't have it to give back. That's the other reason people are upset. They're backed into a corner financially. And we just saw the RCMP report come out saying that once people realize how broke they are, they might just revolt. A real concern. It was a detailed report. We showed it to you here over a week and a half ago. Other media outlets picking up on it now. We had that report for you way back then. And that unrest, that destabilized country that we're living in right now, is largely the result of this economic turmoil, this economic emergency that we find ourselves in. A new economic reality where young people are being told and realizing they may never, ever be able to afford to buy a house. That's why Trudeau flew out to British Columbia today to make this announcement on housing. He was accompanied by the Deputy Prime Minister, Freeland, who helped to roll out this new housing approach, housing plan. What it really is an effort to reach out to younger voters and score some points so they can scoop up a little bit of momentum at the polls. Here's Chrystia Freeland on this.
Us here. Thank you to some of our amazing BC MP colleagues. It's so wonderful to see you. And thanks above all to the young people who are here with us, and especially the young families. I heard a few parents trying to shush their children as they sort of chirped while the Prime Minister was speaking. I can think of nothing nicer to hear in the backdrop than the happy voices of young children. And I'm grateful to the children and the parents who are here. Because our message today is about you. A fair chance to build a good middle class life. To do as well as your parents or better has always been the promise of Canada. Today, for too many younger Canadians, that promise just isn't being fulfilled. The hurdles are too high. Young Canadians are not getting a fair chance. Many younger Canadians had a really tough introduction to their adult lives. Millennials coming of age in the early 2000s endured the chaos and the challenge and the limited opportunities caused by the Great Recession. Many in Gen Z became adults during the COVID pandemic. What a hard time to enter adulthood. Both generations have strived to pursue careers and start families at a time of high inflation, high interest rates, and really high housing costs. It is so understandable that many young Canadians feel as though the deck is stacked against them. Something doesn't add up. It used to be that if you studied hard, if you got a job, if you worked hard, your reward would be a good middle class life. That was the equation. That was the promise of Canada. But today, younger Canadians can get a good job. They can work hard. But too often, that reward remains out of reach. There are so many wonderful young Canadians, some young families here with us today. And I know that you, like young Canadians I speak to across the country, are worried. You look at the way your parents live and you wonder, how will I ever be able to afford that? A similar sense of anxiety exists among those of us who care about you, about our younger generation, your parents, your grandparents, your older sisters and brothers. We're worried too. We feel for our younger generations who have faced unfair burdens and who face unfair obstacles. What so many parents have achieved for themselves, a degree of comfort, a degree of security, we want for our children too. We want your hard work to be rewarded, just as it was for us. We want you to face the future with a sense of optimism, a sense of anticipation, not with a sense of angst. Nous avons atteint un moment charnière pour les millennials.
Hang on, we'll get past the French. Here we go.
Better for you, where you can get ahead, where your hard work pays off, where you can buy a home, and where you can realize the incredible promise of our great country and get a fair chance at middle-class life. So, how will we do it? First, we are going to turbocharge the construction of new homes across the country. Because the best way to bring down home prices is to increase supply, and quickly. That's why we're cutting red tape and reforming zoning, so more homes get built and get built faster. We're also funding the construction of more apartments and affordable housing across the country. Over the coming days, and in the April budget, we are going to launch a no-holds-barred plan to wrestle down the costs of owning and renting a home. We need to make real the promise of Canada for younger Canadians, and we are going to pull every single lever and push every single button to deliver more housing without delay. Ensuite, nous réduirons le coût de la vie. Nous avons apporté des améliorations au filet de sécurité sociale du Canada.
First of all, she's like, she's talking about a plan to change zoning.
Aux jeunes parents. De nouveaux programmes et
Okay,
à payer
that helps things a little bit at the municipal level
le dentiste
to get more built, maybe.
et viennent
And then
davantage
they're going to
alléger
dump a bunch of
leur
public
fardeau.
money into building apartment units. That's not a house.
Dans le prochain budget,
It will
nous prendrons en
ease the
compte
pressure on
pour rendre la vie
the housing market in general because people will
et pour aider les
be able to
jeunes
find a place to
Canadiens
live maybe more easily if they build more apartments, but
du terrain.
this is like geared to income, no doubt. Here we go.
Grow our economy in a way that is shared by everyone. Our country works best when our economy is growing and when more opportunities exist for every generation. To drive the kind of growth that will move the needle for Canadians, we're going to use the coming budget to build on our efforts to increase investment, to enhance productivity, and encourage the kind of game-changing innovation that will create good-paying and meaningful jobs and keep Canada and Canadians at the economic forefront. We're backing groundbreaking industries, so Canada remains on the cutting edge of the technologies of tomorrow and the good jobs they will bring. We're working to empower more of our best entrepreneurs and innovators to put their ideas to work here at home in Canada. We're investing so our communities are great places to live, work, and raise a family. And we're going to work harder and do more to open up new career opportunities for Canadians. We're acting now and acting with purpose, because the costs of inaction today
Come on.
would be borne chiefly
What
by
are you
younger
gonna
Canadians.
do?
We'd be leaving them behind. And we can't, and we won't.
What are you going to
that.
do?
Instead, we're going to help young Canadians realize the promise of Canada with a responsible economic plan that reduces
What's
our
the
debt
plan?
to GDP ratio and grows the economy, so
How?
we can ensure today's strong social safety net is affordable and is strong for
How?
future generations.
What's the plan?
Today,
Okay.
as a next step in our plan, we are here to announce robust new protections for renters and an easier pathway to home ownership for people who are renting a place right now. More Gen Z and millennials are renting today than the generations that came before them.
Oh boy.
This is especially true here in BC. Here, almost 60% of Canadians between the ages of 25 and 34 are renters. In comparison, only 24% of people between the ages of 55 and 64 are renters. And we all know that renters are facing skyrocketing rent across the country, and we know renters need support right now. That's why we're introducing a new Canadian Renters Bill of Rights and a $15 million tenant protection fund. The Renters Bill of Rights, which we will develop in partnership with provinces and territories, will protect renters from unfair practices like rent evictions. It will make leases simpler by introducing a nationwide standard lease agreement and introduce price transparency by requiring landlords to disclose the price history of apartments. And the Tenant Protection Fund will increase access to legal services for tenants and support tenants' advocacy organizations. Because when renters' rights are supported, they have a better chance of staying in their homes and their communities. Unlike many other monthly payments, renters don't get credit for what is often their biggest expense, paying their rent on time. It doesn't help your credit score. Yet. When it comes time to buy a home, renters deserve credit for the money they spend on rent today and that they have spent on rent over the years. So we're going to ask banks, lenders, landlords, and fintechs to work together to ensure that on-time rent payments by renters help renters to get better credit and potentially qualify for a mortgage, and maybe qualify for that mortgage at a lower interest rate. This tool, this element of fairness, is going to be especially useful for people who rent and have little credit history. Pour les locataires milléniaux et de la génération Z, nous facilitons
Renter's Bill of
l'accès à la
Rights.
propriété et en attendant,
Renting isn't
nous
owning.
facilitons la location. Grâce au compte d'épargne libre d'impôt pour l'achat d'une première propriété, nous aidons les locataires à épargner pour leur première mise de fonds
And
et à se qualifier
setting up a
pour un prêt
legal
hypothécaire
fund
et
to
à
help
ouvrir
renters to
la
go to
porte
court
de
to
leur
sue their
première
landlords.
mise. And since we're here in Vancouver today,
That'll
I just
do it,
want to
yeah.
take a moment to give a shout out to Premier Eby and the BC government. The Premier and his team are doing ambitious.
Whatever. Okay, that's enough. Let's see what else I can find about this. I'm sorry. They've learned nothing. Nothing. This will do nothing to address this issue. Nothing. It will make it worse. Worse. Because this will pit landlords against renters. She's addressing the rental market. They're addressing the rental market. They're going to build more apartments with tax money. I guess that's what I'm hearing. And then go after let's see what else I can find. Maybe she's just not being specific enough here. Okay, so the proposed measures aim to amend the Canadian Mortgage Charter to allow tenants to count on-time rent payments toward their credit score and propose $15 million in new funding to provincial legal aid organizations to better protect tenants against unfair rent payments, called rent evictions, or bad landlords. So you can sue, they'll help you pay, they'll make a bunch of lawyers rich. It'll become a disincentive to anyone who wants to be a landlord or construct rental housing. It will be a disincentive to them because they're going to set up a culture, an environment of litigation, which encourages tenants to sue landlords Who the heck wants to invest in that? Put your money in the stock market. You don't have the headaches. I know it's already a headache-plagued business now, being a landlord. Sometimes you get a good tenant. Sometimes you get people who trash the place. Sometimes you get people who don't pay their rent, and you can't evict them because they have rights. Sometimes even squatting rights. The government is also proposing a new Canadian Renters' Bill of Rights, which would require landlords to disclose the history of a property's pricing so renters can bargain fairly. Well, regardless of the history, the market value of something is the market value. That's what you bargain toward, is a fair market price for whatever it is you're paying for. Doesn't really matter what the person before was paying. And in fact, it will become a disincentive to landlords to ever rent at a lower rent. Because if they rent to someone at a lower than market value, then they would know that the next person who comes along will be looking at that rent as a benchmark upon which they would base their bargaining. And if it's below market rate, then the new tenant would point to it and say, well, this guy was paying this amount. And then I guess if you don't get it for whatever you think it's worth based on that benchmark, you're going to go to court and have a battle. And rent payments going toward credit scores to encourage more debt, I guess. When in fact, the whole idea behind home ownership is supposed to be that you buy the home and then pay your mortgage down to build equity. People don't even understand what that word means anymore. I keep hearing equity thrown around as though people refer to it, they use it as though it's equality. No, equity means building value over time, building wealth even. And that's what a mortgage does. You pay down the mortgage so that at the end of the process of paying off your debt, you end up owning the asset, which is capital, which is the house, which is, for a lot of people, their retirement fund these days. So if you take that away, because they're only renting, you're not building any equity. You're still just putting money into the pocket of and building equity for the landlord. And you may, in the end, end up with, might end up further ahead. I don't know. It depends on how inflation works over the long run, but that's another formula. The point of the matter is, it's just, this isn't encouraging home ownership. This is encouraging renting. Remember, you'll own nothing and be happy. You're not going to own your house under this plan. This is what Jagmeet Singh of the NDP was referring to about a week ago. We ran a clip of him referring to exactly this. New Democrats are calling for a protection renters fund, it says right here, to be implemented in the upcoming federal budget that would help not-for-profit organizations buy affordable housing when it's up for sale, allowing them to keep it affordable for renters. So what they're going to do is they're going to take more housing off the private market and give it to not-for-profit organizations and turn it into geared for income housing. Rent control, indirectly. Government control over the housing market in a much greater way. And Canada already has a substantial amount of geared to income and government housing projects. In addition, the Liberals must place a moratorium, it says here, on the purchase of affordable homes by financialized landlords, including real estate investment trusts and corporate firms who are making massive profits while driving up costs. It is time that the Liberals end the preferential tax treatment of rights in Canada and invest that money into affordable housing. As I look at this is a war. They're declaring war on private investment in the housing industry. When you do that, do you know what this means? This will be a disaster, because it means that anybody with money that wants to build houses for the rental market, they're not going to do it. Who would invest in this now? You're going to get sued. The government's going to come after your property. You're going to have problems getting fair market value for any rental properties that you own. You're going to be in a constant state of conflict. You're going to be in an adversarial relationship almost constantly with your tenants. So who would want that? This is an assault on private investment in rental properties, and this does not address in any way that I'm seeing private ownership of a home. This is all about rental. It does nothing. Aside from maybe zoning changes or relaxed zoning regulations for municipalities, that's controlled at the municipal level anyway. This is a disaster waiting to happen. It's like rent control itself. If you just look at straight up rent control, economic study after economic study after economic study based on empirical evidence has shown time and time again that it simply does not work. Because as soon as you impose the rent controls, investors stop investing in the market to build rental properties. That creates more of a shortage. It exacerbates the problem, makes it worse, because people stop building new housing units for rental on the private side. Then it has default to government. You have no choice. So the government says, we have the solution. We'll regulate the crap out of the landlords. So then they stop building, and they even stop maintaining, because there's no way to recoup their costs in many cases. So you get more rundown buildings, you get less of it constructed, which creates an even greater shortage, which drives rents up even higher because you have less of it available, although they put renting controls in place. So then the landlords then invest even less in maintenance. And then as they try to force people to fix up the units that sometimes are trashed by tenants, the landlords find themselves in a place of financial loss. It's a spiral down. It's a downward spiral all the way. And you know who ends up losing? Both sides, the owners of the buildings and the tenants, because the tenants end up living in rundown slums or units that are in disrepair, and they can't get a good response. And there's less and less choice, less and less available. And then the government will ride in and say, well, I guess we have the solution. We'll build more housing with your tax dollars. Because they don't understand economics at all. They think the solution is I'll just take this money. If somebody needs a house, I'll just build them a house. No concept at all about how the market actually works or what it takes to create a sustainable economic environment that stimulates and encourages investment and provides affordable product, in this case, housing for everyone. They really don't get it. This is just flabbergasting. Exasperating. This is why we're in trouble.
Maverick News. Fighting for freedom.
Bought my first house, $67,000. It was a long time ago. I'm getting old. But even back then, It was a challenge to be able to afford to buy a house for $67,000. But you know why I was able to afford to buy that house? Because the government, a conservative government at the time, came up with a new program that allowed first-time home buyers to purchase with half the usual down payment on a first-time home purchase. It allowed young people to get into the market to buy a first home. So that allowed me to go out and buy a small semi-detached home with half of what the down payment would normally be required under the mortgage laws of the time. And those mortgage laws are important because they make sure that people don't get overextended in debt so that they don't get in too deep and then end up bankrupt. You go to the bank, you get a mortgage, they look at the numbers and they say, you can afford this much. But they provided some tax incentives, some tax adjustments to help first-time home buyers, only for first-time home buyers, to help you get into the market. So I was able to get into a fixer-upper, semi-detached home. That was the first house. And that makes all the difference because once you're in and you own it through a mortgage, then you stop paying rent. Once you stop paying rent, you're building equity. Yeah, you have debt, but the home you're living in becomes an asset. And then month over month over month, every time you pay, you owe a little bit less and a little bit less and a little bit less. And by the time you get to the end, you can pay that thing off and you can own it outright, and that becomes an asset. Or you can take that, as I have on a few occasions, as everyone does when they're trying to build a better life for themselves and their families, and you sell and then you trade up because you've built equity and you can climb up the ladder and get yourself a little bit bigger house and then maybe a little bit bigger house. And some people even build enough equity that they maybe buy a second house and then turn that into a rental property. Or they'll buy a duplex and rent half of it out so that they can build equity on both sides and double your pleasure, double your fun. There are a lot of things that people can do that way, but you have to be able to get in. I'm not hearing anything like that from these guys today. Nothing. No wonder we have a housing crisis, massive immigration, record levels of new people coming into the country, not enough houses being built. There weren't enough houses on the market to begin with, so you have a shortage, so automatically the prices go up. We've seen the values of homes in many markets more than double, which is great for people who own a home in a way, but it's all relative because if you see the prices of homes double, you can sell your house, but then if you have to buy another house, you have to find one, but you're going to have to pay twice as much for the next one. So you're not really any further ahead unless you sell the house and move out of the country, take all the money with you and go live someplace where the cost of living and the cost of housing is considerably less. And a lot of people are doing that to escape, I guess, the economic tyranny of Trudeau. They just don't understand economics. It won't get any better. It will get worse. I guarantee it. Under that plan, definitely going to get worse. So hold on to your wallets, buckle up, unless you already own a home. And even if you do own a home, if you have to renew the mortgage, I hope that the rising interest rates don't cause too much of a problem for you, but the rates are going to continue to climb because we are facing a serious inflation problem. And the only tool that the Trudeau government has, and the Biden administration, frankly, they only have two things they can do to address rising inflation. That's increase productivity, which they can't seem to get their heads wrapped around, or two, raise interest rates, which results in less growth again. And right now, they're in a bad position where they have inflation and low growth. It's a double whammy to the economy, and it's going to get worse, especially as the dollar continues to decline in value. All you have to do is go back and look in time and see what the plans were. What did they do in the past that worked? I just gave you one example of something that has been done in the past, and all you have to do is go back and do it again. Do that. That's ideological. That's political ideology coming to play. They're practicing politics, not implementing sound economic policy. That's why Trudeau has an economy that is going straight down the tubes. It's so frustrating. Oh my God. What else do we have for you tonight? I'm almost afraid to look and remember. How about this guy? Senator Ralph Babet, United Australia Party, talking about this new digital ID bill that has passed in Australia. Oh, there's another pleasant subject for people. Digital ID, government tracking. Everybody loves to hear about that. Here he is.
G'day everyone, it's Senator Ralph Babet here. Just want to make a quick little video to let you know about the digital ID bill has passed just now. It was supported by the Greens, the Labor Party, Senator David Van, Senator David Pocock, Senator Jackie Lambie and Senator Tammy Tyrrell. So basically everyone except for the Coalition, One Nation and of course yours truly, the United Australia Party. It is a sad day for freedom today. Like I've always said, this digital ID has the ability to lead towards a social credit system. It has the ability to really weaponize the central bank digital currency, and it's all round a bad bill. I mean, who trusts the government to have that much information that belongs to us in a central place? It is not going to end well. Anyway, we did what we could, but yes, it has passed. Next election, vote one UAP. If we ever have the ability to, we will repeal it. Thank you guys. Bye-bye.
I know that won't make some people pretty, and okay, that's going to make some people unhappy. I had to rewind there and get my lips wrapped around my tongue so that I could speak clearly. Oh, man alive. What's the world coming to? I don't know, man. A lot of lying going on, I know that. All the way around. We're going to get into this whole thing about the Baltimore bridge coming down. I want to make sure I cover off everything else first, though, before we get into that. How do you guys feel about this carbon tax? Anybody going out there to protest or anything next week? Just wondering, just looking in the chat here. I don't know. I'm going to go over here and look in the chat on this side. Anybody doing anything next week? Gina says, I can't take much more. I can't take much more. Oh, I know. I'm sorry, Gina. Mr. Speaker. Christian. That being said, I do want to address something here tonight. This might not even sit well with some people, what I'm about to say, but I have to say, I'm still glad I live here. I'm still glad I live in Canada. I am. Here, watch. I'll tell you why. Look at this. Listen very carefully. Justin Trudeau has sex with squirrels. There, I said it. You know what's going to happen to me? Nothing. That's why I'm still glad I live here. Justin Trudeau is a really dumb dodo head. Know what's going to happen to me? Nothing. Nothing. That's why I'm glad I live here. Rick, what are you talking about? I'm protected by the Constitution. I'm protected by the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, even though it has its flaws and it has its weakness and can be circumvented in certain circumstances. But when I say Justin Trudeau is a complete freaking idiot and the worst prime minister in Canadian history, he's not going to kill me. He's not going to throw me in jail for saying that. He might throw me in jail for some other things. And yeah, he can be pretty authoritarian at times. But we still have a system that I think is, with all of its flaws and even with the attacks that government have brought to bear on the system, especially over the past 4 years, we still have a system where I can sit here and say those kinds of terrible things about a politician, even the prime minister himself, without real fear of being thrown in jail or killed. He's not going to send anybody over here to poison me. He's not going to shoot me. He's not going to have some big, heavy, big, brawny guy come and beat the crap out of me. He might not like me. He might not let me into a news conference, although I would not ever be a threat to him or any other politician for that matter. And if I were to go to a news conference, I would act in a respectful manner. Absolutely. And I would welcome the opportunity to ask some questions. But I can say terrible things about politicians in this country, and I won't end up dead or in jail as a result of it. Because we still have the foundation of a good system here that protects us. I can't say that that's the case in most other countries around the world. Even some countries that I see some people embracing, thinking that things are better there, when I know they're really no better. Maybe similar at best, but probably worse. Probably not as good as what we have, even though what we have right now is under assault. It is in jeopardy, especially with these new pieces of legislation that Justin Trudeau has written dealing with the internet and some censorship online and so on. But I can still sit here and say that Justin Trudeau has really bad hair, or that I don't like his socks. I can even say things about his wife and her new book. And I'm not going to end up dead. So I'm glad I live here. And the reason I bring this up is because, the other night I used the word regime. The Trudeau regime. And it's so easy to kind of fall into the rhythm of what other people sort of say and use similar language. And yeah, in many respects, I do think that we have sort of a regime going on insofar as it's a democratic regime, which is, not unusual in terms of the way some countries are ruled around the world. Yeah, you can have regimes that are part of a democratic system where a select small group of people really run the show. I think that in many respects that's what we have here. It's not so much like an autocratic single king or dictator running things as a regime in that respect, but I did want to clarify the use of that word and just maybe define it a little bit more clearly for everyone here, because no, I don't think that we have a full-fledged dictatorship on our hands, as some people would assert, quite inaccurately. We do still have elections. We do still have the ability to oust these guys from office. We do have a system, and it is a multi-party system. It truly is. And people are free to vote for any other party they want. Now, it's not easy to get another party up and running. It's not easy to field candidates Canada-wide and get everything cranked up and going. But it can be done. It has been done. We've seen it done. The Conservative Party itself is a manifestation of that. It's an example of that. The Conservative Party of Canada is actually technically a newer party. It hasn't really been around that long. Yeah, we've had conservative governments, but the Conservative Party itself was sort of dismantled, split up. For a time, it became split between, the Reform Party, which was Western-based mainly, and then whatever was left of the Conservatives of the time. Then you sort of had the Canadian Alliance form, bringing everybody back together, and then back into a new Conservative Party of Canada, which is not the old PC party. This is the CPC party. And it just shows that these parties can form, and you have now the People's Party of Canada, you have the United Party of Canada as another alternative that is emerging, coming on scene. They'll be fielding some candidates in the upcoming election. I think they're looking at trying to get at least 200 fielded across the country. There are other options out there, so we do have a multi-party system available to us, and we have had the Conservative Party of Canada in a new form actually take power with Stephen Harper. Not to say that it's entirely new. It's a reformed party, split apart, put back together again, reconstituted, but it's different. And this CPC party is a little bit different as well. I just don't like throwing words around loosely. And I just fear that, sometimes what I'm saying might be misinterpreted. I see a lot of other people jacking up the narrative to just really fearmonger, scare people. As much as we have problems, I want to be a little more precise with my language and realistic. Because you're not going to get real solutions unless you deal with things in a realistic way and deal with facts and deal with, hopefully, what gets us to the truth. And the reality is, if it was a regime, he would never leave office. If it was just a straight-up authoritarian dictatorship, no chance. But we're already seeing cracks form. His days are numbered. He's not popular. These economic plans he's rolling out clearly are not based on sound judgment or principles or policies. They're just, they're ideological in nature. They're not realistic. So he's going to have to go. And the knives are out already within the party itself. Justin Trudeau's going to be out of there. Maybe one more election. Things are going to get worse. And then, you have the chance to go to the polls. And people say, well, yeah, but the voting machines and the fixed things. Dudettes. All the dudes and dudettes. No. At the federal level, they don't even use voting machines. It is already all paper ballots. Don't even talk to me about it. I know. They're paper ballots. Anyway. I'm not saying we don't have issues, and I'm not going to say it's not going to be a hard-fought battle, and I'm not going to say the people aren't going to give up on the liberal side. They're certainly going to push hard to bring it back, but I see all kinds of craziness out there, and people are going to vote for whatever they want to vote for. The point is, people do have choice already. Be careful what you ask for. You might just get it. And I just wanted to be clear about the word regime. I used it, and then I thought afterward, like hours later, it just came to my mind. It was like, as much as I'm upset with Justin Trudeau, and I'm no big fan, as you know, I want to be clear with my language. I don't want to make it sound like something more than it is. It's still an accurate word. I think he is running kind of a regime where he has a heavy hand. He's very authoritarian in his approach. I don't think he listens a whole lot when he's dealing even with his inner circle. I think he has been, very authoritarian in his approach to things. I think he has overthought. He's given way too much thought, rather, to an over-analysis of potential threats to his government at times, resulting in the use of the Emergencies Act. And now we're seeing that there is pushback even from the courts saying, no, the way you used it was inappropriate, it wasn't constitutional. We're seeing these things. The pendulum is swinging back. The truth is being revealed. But that shows you again that we do live in a country where we do have a system that over time it does self-correct. It does provide the protection that we need. It's just that he knows how to use the system, and he's trying to change the system over time. That is the danger. But it takes a lot to change our system, as it should, because it's the system that protects us. And what we need to do is push back and put people in there who will help to restore the system to more of what it was, with maybe some changes in place. But claw back those reformations that were designed to fundamentally transform the system. Take it back and get back to what we had. More of what we had. Maybe not exactly the way it was. We can make improvements along the way, but I never wanted to fundamentally transform the country. I just don't want the government locking us all down, masking us all up, and sticking thingies of Kool-Aid in my arm against my will. Strapping people down, you will comply. No. If they hadn't gone down that road, we wouldn't be here right now. But people have so little trust now in our government. And they embrace it. And they're scared. People are living in a world of fear. Addicted to the fear porn. I just, honestly, folks, just before I came on air, someone very dear to me, one of our viewers actually, sent me a video of our friend Scott Ritter. And I don't know, I knew that he had done this interview, but someone has taken this interview and they've repurposed it and they've posted it on another video channel. It's very odd what's going on with him. His videos keep getting scooped up and then reposted. It's a very odd thing. I'm not sure what to make of it, but in any event, this Ritter interview was edited up. I can tell it's edited. And I don't know how accurate it is, what he's saying, but it just comes across to me as just straight up hardcore fear porn. And I mean, it's so over the top, frankly, that I have to kind of laugh at it. But it scared the living daylights out of, I think it did anyway. I think it scared the living daylights out of my friend, as I say, somebody that I like very much, have a lot of respect for. Let me see if I can find you the clip here. And I'll show you what I mean. Yeah, here it is right here. Okay. Former UN Weapons Inspector Scott Ritter. Scott Ritter's terrifying prediction just came true. That's what the caption is underneath it. I don't need to show you the caption. I just read it. And then just, what's this about? Nuclear holocaust! Well, I'll let this roll. Watch.
As we speak, the CIA has worked with the GUR to use Russian nationalist groups to invade Russia. Invade Russia. Invade Russia. That means that 5,000 Russian nationalists trained by the United States, equipped by the United States, directed by the United States, operated under the umbrella of Ukrainian intelligence, are leaving Ukrainian soil and invading the soil of Russia, Belgorod and Kursk. Now, they've been defeated, but again, they invaded. We're not talking about Boy Scout games here. We're talking about acts of war. We are talking about nuclear war here, and it's on full automatic, meaning that once this begins, it doesn't stop until the world is ended. It's on full automatic. That's why we published this memorandum, because as an American, I'd like, at least before I die in a nuclear holocaust, I'd like Congress, my representatives, to discuss this. Is this what we want? And the purpose of this invasion, which began in early March, was to disrupt the election of Vladimir Putin. It's just stated that the heads of these nationalist groups have said this, and Ukrainian intelligence has said this, and it's a long-time mission of the CIA to accomplish this. So we say that. So now we know that the CIA is capable of carrying out acts of violence on Russian soil. So now we go to what happened in Moscow. We know that these perpetrators were already operating in Russia. They left for some training in Turkey, came back. The timing, they were supposed to launch their attack. They cased out this venue. The attack was supposed to be launched on or about March 8th or 9th. Why? Why that venue on that date? Because a Russian superstar named Shaman was performing on that date, a patriotic concert.
Okay, enough. Yeah. So, yeah, my friend worried that we were about to die in a nuclear holocaust today or tomorrow because it's on full automatic. Yeah, that video was posted a few days ago, at least. We're still here. Uh-huh. Yup. Not dead yet. I'm worried about nuclear war, but we're not dead yet. Scared. Some people are scared. Sure scareded some people. Ukraine war also not over yet. Last time I checked. Yep, still raging. Still on. Been years now. Not over yet. It's okay, all right? Folks, it is scary out there, but we're not dead yet. Don't give up. Sleep well tonight. I guarantee, I give you my personal word, my 100% solid ironclad guarantee that the sun will rise tomorrow and you will be here to enjoy it. Tonight, we will not die in a nuclear holocaust. That's my prediction. It's going to be okay tonight. I tire of this. I tire of the fear porn. I don't know what Scott Ritter really said. I don't know the full context of everything that happened there. Somebody took that video, added some ominous music and some video, some stock footage, turned it into whatever that was. And I don't know. But I just know this, we're not going to die tonight in a nuclear holocaust. It's not going to happen. And all these people saying that it was this or it was that over there in Moscow, you want to know the truth? They don't know. Anyone telling you that they know that it was this or it was that or it was definitely this, bunk. 100% bunk. There's a handful of people who know, and those are the people who executed the plan, planned it, were involved directly in it. Maybe whatever government or terrorist organization or whatever it is was behind it, those people know. And maybe some intelligence people on either side, maybe they know, maybe. But there's not one pundit online tonight or on television. There's not one pundit writing for any publication anywhere in the world tonight who can tell you unequivocally that they know, because they don't. And if they're telling you that they know, when it's very clear it's impossible for them to know, then you should be asking yourself, why are they telling you that they know? And what is it that they are telling you? And why are they telling you that? Because they don't know. None of them. Okay, Robert, I'll make another prediction. A week from now, I'm still going to be here, and you are going to be here too. Now, I'm not happy, and I'm concerned about a possible nuclear conflict. I don't want it, and we are very close to that. But it's not going to happen today. I seriously doubt it's going to happen in the next week either. What I'm saying is we can't continue to live in a state of constant fear, because people don't think when they're afraid. And what we really need right now is people thinking clearly. And there's just been way too much of it over a far too long period of time, which brings me to this whole thing with the ship in Baltimore hitting the bridge. So predictable, so much of the same pattern out there. The theories, the crapola. It's laughable at this point. It's so predictable at this point. I mean, it didn't take long, hours maybe, for people to come out and start throwing out theories that, of course, it's our own government doing it to itself. Anybody telling you that is an idiot. They just are. Or they're just acting maliciously, thinking that you're an idiot, that you're going to buy it. And there are a lot of idiots out there. It's our own government just doing it to itself. Why? So that they can spend a crap load of money rebuilding the bridge? There are some possibilities where it could have been some sort of an attack. Of course, it's and regardless of whether it's an actual attack of some kind or not, the impact is substantial on the economy, on the infrastructure, on supply chains. It's one of the busiest ports in the United States. I addressed all of those things immediately. But the conspiracy theories automatically started, and they've just grown from there. It's wearing me down, because so much of it is just such crap. People seem to love it, and I kind of understand it. There's a degree of entertainment that comes from it. But it also just, as I say, it feeds people's fear. People are preying upon people using this fear. Here, I'm going to show you the video that kind of triggered me, in a way, to do this again tonight, to just talk about it some more. This is the one that was sent, and I looked at it. Are you ready? Here we go. Brother. God help us.
Clearly there's something very going on about this Baltimore bridge collapse. I'm going to show you some videos and you let me know what you think.
Every single point. I'm going to do it again. So you have here, charges.
And I'm going to slow it down for you so you can see it. Right there. We have one going off. And then we have another one right there going off. This kind of reminds me of a day back in September 2001. What do you guys think?
I think you're full of crap.
That doesn't look like no accident to me. And then we have this boat. I'm going to speed this one up for you. Watch this thing. This doesn't look like an accident. This looks incredibly intentional. Just backs it right in. I mean, you just wanted to help out the first step and complete the process. Yep, there we go. It's going down. Unbelievable what's going on, and no surprises, because the mayor wants to turn this into a smart city. Yep, he issued an executive order designed to govern the use of development of artificial intelligence. And you know how much they love their symbolism and secret messages. So what better bridge than the Baltimore Francis Scott Key Bridge? Because
So
after
the
all,
mayor
he was
did
the
it.
one who penned the
The
Star
mayor of
Spangled
Baltimore
Banner.
did it.
And so their message is, we're taking down the old America.
Mm-hmm. So the mayor of Baltimore is responsible. I looked at that video. Do you know, that's such a load. There were no explosive charges on that bridge. There were lights in the background from towers in an industrial area, all of the same color temperature. I looked at it pretty closely. And the camera is digitally zoomed in using a pan and scan tool on a video editing piece of video editing software. And it zips back and forth. You can't, it's only there for a moment. And because the bridge is moving when it's starting to collapse, it's hard to kind of see what's behind it, but you're getting lens flare combined with pixelation because they're cropped in digitally using the pan and scan function on the video editing software. And it's the lights from those towers behind the bridge itself that make it look like there's some sort of a flash there. But then as the bridge moves, you're seeing these lights kind of appear to dissipate, and it makes it look like it's a flash or an explosion. There's no explosion. The reality is that type of bridge is not difficult to knock down. Many, many, many hundreds of incidents around the world where bridges just like that have been damaged and have collapsed. And it's because each piece of the bridge itself relies on every other piece in order to maintain the structural integrity of the bridge. So if you take out one of those main legs and even one or two of those cross beams become disengaged, the whole thing begins to collapse on itself. That's the way that those bridges are constructed. It's basic engineering. When I was in school, I think it was grade 8, we had to build a bridge, or maybe it was grade 9, whatever. You know, they taught you how to build a bridge, right? And what they do is, if you look at the way they're designed, you have cross members all the way across like this. And so you have these X's, and the weight transfers from here to here and back up to here and over there and back up there, and it goes all the way along until you get to a supporting beam, and then all the weight collectively from all of these is transferred down to that single point. But it maintains its strength because the pressure is distributed across the structure and then transferred down to a more robust supporting beam here. But you take that out, you take out even one of these, and the whole thing collapses. It twists in on itself. And yes, there were some sparks and things that flew because they're put together with rivets. And as these beams start to come apart and they twist, there's incredible inertia there, incredible kinetic energy. And you have steel twisting and bending on steel, thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds, all the weight just coming to bear and twisting those cross members into pretzels and popping those huge rivets out. And as they pop out, it causes incredible friction and heat because there's so much weight. Massive, massive amounts of weight. I mean, you're talking like skyscraper high structure. And it's falling apart and pulling itself apart. All that weight. And as the metal comes apart, yeah, you're going to get sparks. And in the background, you have all those lights in the background from those towers at night, so they're more pronounced, and it's backlighting. So as the camera, and I understand videography and photography, I'm a professional videographer and photographer. I do that partly for a living. I have for many, many years. But the backlighting, those little pinpoints of light, those also are being pointed at as though they're charges. No, they're not. He's lying to you. Clickbait. Or worse, whatever the motivation might be, it's a lie. What is true is the vessel, for whatever reason, lost power. And when a ship like that loses power, you can't maneuver. Who here has ever driven a boat? I've driven a boat. You're driving along. You want to go this way? The motor, the propellers turn this way. You've got a rudder. You've got momentum. You can turn the rudder, but you need the propellers to give you propulsion to go over that way or to go that way. Or if you need to throw it into reverse, then the propeller reverses and it pulls you backwards. But you turn the motor off, you have nothing. Now, in addition to that, the engines on that ship clearly were generating all the electricity for the vessel. That's why when the engines went out, they lost the lights. No power, no electricity. When the power goes out, you can't maneuver. You've got minimal maneuverability because you can still potentially turn the rudders, but you need the engines running with those propellers, and you have massive amounts of weight. Inertia, even though they were only traveling at about 8 kilometers per hour, you can't stop something like that on a dime. And once the engine's shut off and you can't control it, you're at the mercy of the currents and the inertia of the ship itself. And then the engines came back on. I guess he tried to throw it into reverse. You saw that big puff of smoke coming out the back. That was them trying to crank that engine back and avoid the collision. That's truth. The question is, why did the engines shut down? And there are some legitimate concerns there. And I've been looking into that, and I can give you some real factual information regarding that, which may give rise to even national security issues. But I don't like people who are just full of crap, who don't know crapola about crap, telling you crap. It looks to me like somebody blew it up. Yeah, that's just people who want you to have more distrust of your government. That's people who want clicks. That's people who have who knows what motivation, but it's not good. And it doesn't help the matter at all. Now, I know that the investigation is accelerating there. I guess now they have today that they've had divers go in and they were actually able to recover 2 bodies. And it is a tragedy. And there are things that do deserve further scrutiny. Definitely should be looking at this issue of cybersecurity. Could this have possibly been a cyber attack on the ship? It's possible. That is definitely a possibility. Before we get into that, I can tell you as well that, the people on board seemed to be reacting in a way that, they were trying to stop this Singaporean vessel, which is nearly 1,000 feet long. It had lost its power from actually hitting the bridge. They tried. They sent out a Mayday call. There were also people trying to get people just looking in the chat there. My friend is back. Here we go. I've got this clip talking about the Mayday coming in, okay? So, hats have to go off to some people who are also doing their best to minimize the damage.
Is there any way to shut down the bridge? Was there enough time for that distress call to trigger something like that?
Now, the thing that we know is that, even as the boat was coming in, we had a ship that was coming in at 8 knots. So coming in at a very rapid speed. We do know that the investigation is currently going on. But I have to say, I'm thankful for the folks who once the warning came up, and once notification came up that there was a mayday, who literally, by being able to stop cars from coming over the bridge, these people are heroes. They saved lives last night.
The focus is on rescue now and humanity. But looking forward.
Okay, so enough of that. Because that Mayday call came in, and then there were other crews who were able to stop traffic, prevent more cars from getting on the bridge. They knew they had a big problem, and so yeah, they did save lives. No question. Still a tragedy, and still other things that we need to be looking at, though, as well. And cybersecurity is one of them. And when I say that, I don't say it lightly, and I don't say it in a way to unduly focus attention on this. But if you look at this, cybersecurity has become a major area of concern for the shipping industry in general. Okay, let me see if I can find some of my references here. Okay, here's an article, for instance, in Marine Insight, okay? This is something that's been a major concern for the shipping industry for years now. Shipping industry remains easy target, pays average US $3.2 million in cyber attacks. So modern ships, yeah, they have a lot of systems that are digitized, obviously. They rely on GPS for navigation. They have other automatic identifiers that allow the vessels to be tracked digitally. GPS is also vulnerable to attacks, according to these studies that I've been looking at, that it's a serious area of concern. The vessels themselves have sometimes outdated software and computer systems that become vulnerable. Often when they go into a port around the world, anywhere in the world, they plug into the computer systems that are there, leaving themselves open and vulnerable to potential cyber attacks, malware attacks, and even ransomware attacks. And this says that new research has found that the maritime industry remains an easy target for cyber criminals, and that the cost of attacks and demand for ransom payments across the sector have skyrocketed over the last 12 months. The report, which was produced by global sector-focused law firm HFW and maritime cybersecurity company Cyber Owl, reveals that the average cyber attack in the maritime industry now ends up costing the target organization $550,000, up from $182,000 in 2022. It also shows that demands for ransom have increased by more than 350%, with the average ransom payment now $3.2 million, up from $3.1 million last year. It's not the only industry that's vulnerable. The healthcare industry is another one that has been identified as an extremely vulnerable industry to cyber attacks from potentially foreign governments, organized crime, hackers, and even just digital opportunists. In fact, all the hospitals in this region within the past year here were targeted and were taken down by a ransomware attack, just like this. Now, ransomware is just one of the digital concerns, the cybersecurity concerns facing the maritime industry. It goes beyond just ransomware, where you have bad actors out there trying to extract money from these shipping companies. There are safety considerations. Serious concerns. A surge of cyber attacks on maritime companies. What you need to know. Here's another industry publication citing studies. This from SciDome. In recent weeks, the maritime industry has witnessed a concerning uptick in cyber attacks. We see attacks on both shipping companies and ports, as well as on other critical infrastructure from energy facilities, railways, and airports. recent maritime cyber attacks. It lists them right here. For example, just in the last month and a half, it says we saw more than 10 attacks on various facilities in the maritime sector, mostly ports. This is an attack every 3 days. Examples of countries that were hit: Sweden, Italy, the Netherlands, Moldova, Bulgaria, Croatia, Albania, Pakistan, Poland, and more. Other critical cyber risks that shipping companies need to address immediately. In addition to hackers specifically targeting maritime assets, security researchers recently unveiled critical vulnerabilities in software of major router providers, Cisco and Fortinet, as well as F5 VPN. Examples of affected elements are Cisco, iOS, XE software, and Fortinet multiple modules, including Forta Manager software, Forta ISM, Forta IEDR, Forta Sandbox, and others. It goes on, identifying various software packages, programs. Another important critical vulnerability that was found to be actively exploited and patched since September involves all major internet browsers: Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox, Microsoft Edge, Apple Safari, etc. So sometimes not keeping your browser up to date, these kinds of things can leave a ship very vulnerable. DDoS. What is DDoS? In short, this means that a very large number of compromised computers try to access the website or interface at the same time. How large? Microsoft said in 2022 that it stopped the largest ever DDoS attack that included data transfer of 3.47 terabytes per second originating from 10,000 computers. Without proper DDoS prevention measures, websites and interfaces can be taken down to non-service to clients, and in some cases this also opens up other exploitation risks. The average cost of a DDoS attack to an organization is $50,000. But more than that, they talk about ransomware again, but it goes again further to areas of safety. This is another article aimed at the maritime shipping industry itself in specific, and also identifying cyber threats for the shipping industry. You have to understand that, this ship involved in this particular mishap as well, manufactured in 2015. I looked it up. So it's fairly new by ship standards. But the ships today are much, much larger than they were back in the 1970s. That bridge was constructed back in the 1970s. And if you look at the video footage of ships passing underneath that bridge, there isn't a lot of space there. And the ships back in the 70s were smaller. Now that ship produced in 2015, tons of weight there, loaded with cargo. And if you look at this study, an article on this additional study into common cybersecurity vulnerabilities in ships, it says here, according to Maritime Cybersecurity Priority 2023, this is a quote from their DNV report. It says, according to our research, more than 6 in 10 industry professionals expect cyber attacks to cause ship collisions, 60%, and groundings, 68%, within the next few years. Well, folks, we just saw something like that happen. Was it the result of some sort of a cyber attack? That could have come in a variety of forms. It could have been simply something like malware or some sort of a virus picked up by the computer system, affecting the way the ship was able to operate. The engines, obviously, monitored and at least and even controlled in a digital manner on a vessel produced in 2015. Modern vessels are highly digitized. So if the computers on the vessel malfunction, that could affect engine operability. Now, I know that The people investigating this incident are tonight looking into the fuel to see if the fuel may have been contaminated in some way. That's another possibility. The truth of the matter is we don't have a cause directly identified, so we have a lot of theories. I can only say that the industry as a whole has been concerned and is still concerned about cyber attacks. In addition to that, what have we seen? What have we been reporting on here for the past few weeks? We've been telling you that our security services here in North America on both the Canadian and U.S. sides, and just yesterday another report coming from U.S. and U.K. security agencies saying that the Chinese have launched massive cyber attacks over the past 10 years. And this report being made public yesterday. Was it yesterday or the day before? I'm having trouble keeping my days straight, but this, within the last week. So the SIM Maritime Industry Report 2021 found that 84% of ship owners and ship operators consider cybersecurity important or very important. Their concern is not without merit. Global supply chains have become favored targets for cyber criminals, as evidenced by attacks on numerous shipping companies in recent times. A marine cyber risk consultancy reports of 1 new incident per day on average. While it is encouraging to see the shipping industry gaining awareness on the issue, it appears there's plenty of work ahead. Digitalization is transforming every part of the value chain, which for all the good it promises comes with challenges. According to one ethical hacker, it's not unusual for vessels to be wide open to cyber attack. So what are the common weak spots? It asks. In the guidelines on cybersecurity on board ships report, they identify some of the systems on board that are most vulnerable. Cargo and loading management systems. And as you can see, there's a picture inside a ship showing you the control systems, all of them on computer screens. So yes, these ships are digitized. Digital network navigation systems have revolutionized the ship's bridge, but without robust defenses, they can be entryways for malicious actors. Even if your bridge system is kept isolated from other networks, it can still be vulnerable. Software updates via removable media can pose a cybersecurity threat, as they could give malware a way into your network. Should the bridge system fall prey to a cyber attack, such as service denial or data manipulation, it can affect all systems associated with navigation. It's worth noting that outdated bridge operating systems, that is, without malicious influence, can also debilitate the ship. So if they didn't keep their operating systems for their computers updated and current, it means that the software may not be running properly. That can cause all kinds of problems. Propulsion and machinery management. Well, there you go. There are many benefits to controlling and monitoring machinery propulsion and steering via digital systems. Just remember to account for cyber threats. Vulnerability here will vary with the level of interaction with other systems, such as remote condition-based monitoring and/or navigation and communications equipment. Access control systems also identified here as a place of vulnerability. Passenger servicing and management systems, I would say that's not really a factor in this case. Passenger-facing public networks, administrative and crew welfare systems, communication systems. How to find vulnerabilities. It gives the people in the industry ideas on ways to mitigate the risks. Where to go from here, it says, cybercrime is no doubt a serious threat, but remember, you're not powerless against it. Simply knowing where you might be vulnerable is a great start. In this article, we've addressed some of the most common weak points in a ship: cargo and loading management systems, bridge systems, propulsion and machinery management, access control systems, and I named the others, including communication systems. And that is just scratching the surface of this issue. And even the GPS systems, as I learned more about it over the last 24 hours, GPS systems are vulnerable because the signals coming from the satellites are actually very low energy. And they can actually be interrupted by a malicious actor and manipulated to give false readings. I didn't make it up. I was reading it in an industry trade publication, making ship operators, shipping companies aware of the issue. And Robert Matt says black smoke, unburnt diesel. That's because those engines came back on, and yes, whatever was going on with that fuel and the engine, yeah, it you got a giant puff of black smoke out the back of that vessel. And Robert says it could have been computer related. It very well may have been, and it may not have been. Like somebody sitting there like an evil Klaus Schwab globalist cyber hacker dude in a just waiting for the right moment to hit the button to make it crash. It might have been something, and I'm speculating. Maybe it was somebody waiting to push the button to turn off the engine somehow after having hacked into the computer system. But it could have been something like malware or a virus on the computer system, and at that particular moment, the worst possible moment, it shut the systems down. Now, I'll say this as well. It does look very suspicious, doesn't it? Because it's taking out a key piece of infrastructure. That's something that I did address here the day of the disaster. You have, I think last year, a record number of automobiles shipping through that port. 800 and I think it was 19,000 automobiles shipping through the port there in Baltimore. And you also have that bridge which is used to transport hazardous materials. I've heard a lot of people commenting on that honestly, I'm sure don't really know what the heck they're talking about. And they're talking about, it's used to transport hazardous materials that won't fit through the tunnel that they have there. If you look at other tunnels and bridge operations, they don't allow the hazardous materials to be transported through tunnels because they're hazardous materials. So that you want them in an open air environment. That's why they are forced to go over the bridge. Taking that bridge out does create a real logistics problem for the trucking industry, for all the industries that are going to be affected now because of the supply chain disruptions and the much longer trips that it will take now to get goods to market. And it will affect the economy there in the port. I think the port there accounts for, don't quote me on this, but I think I've heard somewhere between like maybe as much as 15% of commerce in Baltimore is related to the port. A lot of jobs, I would say, are in jeopardy there. Now, I'm going to say this. They have options. And the first thing that comes to mind in order to keep the economy rolling there while they deal with this disaster is barges. I haven't heard anybody else even mention that. But they can get barge operations operating there. They can transport trucks back and forth and get goods flowing that way. So that's an option for them so that they can even transport hazardous materials again. It's a stopgap measure, but they will survive. They'll come up with solutions in order to keep things rolling. That being said, this is a major wrench in the cogs of the economy in that part of the United States. So it is a security issue, but we don't really know what all the facts are. We have to wait for more information to come out. We do know that cybersecurity is a major concern, not just for the shipping industry, but for the whole country. And it is possible that this is some sort of a malicious attack. The investigation, I hope, will eventually reveal that. But to sit here and say that I know for sure that it's this, or that somebody looks to me like they blew the bridge up, no, they didn't. They didn't. And I don't think the mayor of Baltimore had the bridge armed with charges so that at just the right moment they could pop those charges and take the bridge down. Oh yeah, the mayor of Baltimore did it. God. Just blows my mind how stupid things have become. But I knew it was coming. It had to come. There it is. But yeah, these ships, they're vulnerable. And of course, It's possible that it could even be a foreign country. It could just be hackers. It could just be somebody picked up a bad virus someplace on a thumb drive and happened to stick it in the computer system, and it just was sitting there and caused some sort of a computer shutdown that shut down all the power. I don't know. That's the thing. I don't know. All I'm doing tonight is pointing out that this is an area of concern. Cyber security, cyber hacking. Yes, it is possible because the industry itself has identified this as an ongoing area of concern. It has already been a problem. So it's not a stretch to say, what about this as a real possibility? That's a real possibility. I'm not saying that is the answer. It's a possibility. That's a legitimate concern. Beyond that, we just have to wait. And work to keep things on track. Keep it real, man. Then we'll get real solutions. But you know, this is the thing. It's back to the fear porn again. No, I don't think we're going to get blown up in a nuclear holocaust tonight. But we need to take steps to try and prevent it. No, I don't think the bridge was blown up. And I don't think that our government did it to itself. That's more fear porn. We have to get out of that cycle. Stop doing that because that is the distraction. Okay? That's the distraction it's a distraction. Yeah, that's the distraction. I'm just I want to deal in facts. Okay? And this is how bad it's getting. Like, here's Elon Musk in a video, right? I just before coming online, I knew I was going to be talking about this and fake news or whatever you want to call. It's not fake news. This was just malicious activity online designed to get people to click on videos. I think to build up I think it was a TikTok channel where I showed you that video. Here's Elon Musk. What do you make of this? Check this one out.
Ron, one last question, please.
Yes.
Many people invest wrong. Can you give them some advice?
What exactly do you want to hear?
I've lost over $10,000 in investments. Can you please tell me how to invest properly?
Oh, I don't know what to say. You don't know about my new project, WayX, right?
No, I never heard of it. But how does it help me?
Go check it out and give it a try. I can give you and your subscribers a little gift if you want it.
Yes, please tell me. I really want to share this with my subscribers.
I'll give you an invitation link to my project. Share it with your subscribers.
And then what?
The algorithm will trade automatically instead of you and your subscribers. Believe me, you'll get your $10,000 back in no
time. Fake! Totally fake. 100% fake. Fake, 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 fake. Fake. Pretty good fake, deep fake. But that's fake. And it's getting better all the time. I mean, that's just outright fake. 100% fake. Just so I can be very clear for YouTube that what I'm showing people right there is a fake video. Not because I'm trying to show people a fake video to fake them out. I'm trying to show them a fake video, YouTube, to tell them that it's fake and not to send anybody any money. When people, and there's something about Elon Musk as well. And here, I'll show you how good they are at it, okay? Because somebody will probably show me this website and say, no, Rick, I saw it on the CBC website. It's on the news. Looks pretty official. Elon Musk spilled the beans to a fan about his new project, closed platform WayX, enriching its users. The girl met Elon Musk on the street of Austin and did not miss the moment to shoot a video with the billionaire. Surprisingly, Elon Musk turned out to be talkative and candid. Here is an excerpt from their conversation. I played you the video. Earlier, the BBC has already written about Elon's secret project, but this investigation did not receive serious publicity, and Elon Musk did not react in any way. It goes on and on. This site is fake. I ended up clicking on this, and it took me to this fake site. It looks just like a CBC website, but when you look at the URL at the top, it's not a CBC website. Starts off with, instead of cbc.ca or .com, it's W9Q65JKP67A8G160JH0N, and it goes on and on and on and on. That's not a CBC website. It's not really even that good at faking it. I've seen a lot of fake stuff out there with Elon Musk, and they often call him Elon, obviously trying to avoid a potential lawsuit for the use of his name in case they get caught with their scam. Beware of anything with Elon Musk in it. Look for the syncing of the lips to the audio. It's a dead giveaway. That's one way to tell. Anyway, I hope that helps somebody out there tonight avoid getting scammer-hammed. So bad. And even here, I mean, on the Donald Trump side, now we're getting this story. This is mainstream media, so, and they don't like Trump at all. But here they're accusing him of engaging in deceptive digital activities for political gain. The headline here revealed new texts allegedly show Devin Nunes aid organizing Biden disinformation plot. Politics, it's a dirty game, isn't it? Former Rudy Giuliani associate Lev Parnes released what he claims to be texts showing an aid to former Representative Republican Devin Nunes, coordinating with Trump allies how to spread Biden-Ukraine conspiracy theories. Parnas, who has now been slowly rolling out his own correspondences with figures in Trump world, was part of Giuliani's effort to push the idea that Biden sought to oust a Ukrainian prosecutor before his son's business holdings could be investigated, which has been repeatedly debunked. I'm not so sure about that. I don't know anymore. I know exactly what he's talking about. He's talking about the whole thing where he said he had that prosecutor fired. Well, I saw the video. Was it real or not? It seemed to be pretty real, and it was from a few years ago. So that was also sort of before the dawn of all this deep fakery that's going on in the video world and the propaganda world. It says, quote, Devin Nunes with his aide Derek Harvey coordinated with John Solomon, Victoria Toensing, and Rudy Giuliani how to disseminate this disinformation that they sent me to go get on Hunter and Joe Biden. Parnas posted on X teasing that there would be more to come. The texts show Parnas speaking with Harvey. He told him that right-wing reporter John Solomon, quote, needs to get me the material, and they need to set up a Skype call with, quote, your 4 people. He later told Parnas that he needed to prep a staff lawyer. So here's the post on X. Let's take a look at it over on X. Let's see what it is that they based this whole story on, shall we? Here we are. Devin Nunes with his aide Derek Harvey coordinated with John Solomon, Victoria Toensing, and Rudy Giuliani how to disseminate this disinformation. They sent me to go get on Hunter and to Joe Biden. Stay tuned, more to come. Here's a text. And it says, any documents for us, or are you going to keep working through Solomon? It says, I'm in Israel. We'll call you when I get back and we can meet up. Coming to do tomorrow night? Good. I've landed on my way to the Trump Hotel. Let Mel know if you'd like to meet up today. Tomorrow midday, please let me know what time we can. Take off at 5, sorry I missed this. I'm not sure how incriminating any of this stuff is. Hi, Derek, please call me when you have a chance. It looks like we can get all the interviews set up for Tuesday or Wednesday. Whatever works better for you. Wednesday would be best here. It allows me to prep a staff lawyer to assist any suggested line of questions, it says. Full names of who we will interview. Sounds good. We will put together their names and questions that I recommend. I'm not sure if this proves anything. I don't know. Lev Parnas. Find out where it really goes. I'm not seeing enough information there, or even in that news story combined with the two, to draw any conclusions on that. I need to see more, read more, find out more. And that's the bottom line on that one too. But the nastiness is ramping up. The heat, it's a-coming, because we are about to get into the heat of the summer leg of the presidential election campaign. And what did you guys think yesterday of RFK Jr.'s VP running mate pick, Nicole Shanahan? I guess, from what I'm seeing, some people, even within the RFK Jr. camp, not happy still, even though her speech was very inspirational. You know, she, I thought she did a pretty good job with her speech. I thought she was kind of winning people over with her infectious optimism. Definitely progressive politically. I don't know, Trump, and let me see if I can find what Trump's reaction was to this. He says that, he's glad she's running. Because she's going to take votes away from Biden. And RFK is going to take votes away from Biden. In a way, yeah. I think that it does push the whole RFK Jr. campaign more to the left. And I don't think she will appeal very much to the MAGA crowd myself. Although I keep hearing this phrase, MAGA communism. MAGA communism. Let's see here. Come on, Donald. Where's your post about Nicole? Oh, he's also talking about Ronna McDaniel getting fired from NBC. Yeah, she was there. He says here, she only lasted 2 days, and this after McDaniel went out of her way to say what they wanted her to wanted to hear. It leaves her in a very strange place. It's called Never Never Land. And it's not a place you want to be. These radical left lunatics are crazy, all in caps. And the top people at NBC are weak. They are broken, all caps, and embarrassed, all caps, by low ratings, all caps, highly overpaid, all caps, talent in quotation marks, all caps. And this is also in all caps. Bring back free and fair press. Make America great again, 2024. I understand McDaniel is talking to her lawyers. She was supposed to get a big paycheck from NBC. Now it's not clear where she's at. Litigation. That's what's coming. Okay, come on. Where is your post? Nicole. Well, as I scroll down, I can only tell you that I did see it earlier in the day today. And yeah, he says that she is very far left, that, you know, the campaign is in favor of the green new scam, as he puts it. Very much a Donald Trump style post, phrase. I'm not seeing his post here on Truth Social about that. But he says, yeah, he's glad that RFK Jr. is running because he'll take votes away from Biden. Up to this point, I've been saying that RFK would pull more votes from Trump than from Biden. But with this running mate announcement, I'm not so sure. I think it's kind of shifted back, pushing more into to the left. And the funny thing is, as I've said, it's like this is supposed to be a campaign that reaches out and appeals to working class people, average Americans. And who does he pick as his running mate? A billionaire. A billionaire. Let's listen to Ted Cruz talk about the dual justice system on Hannity. Hang on, let me bring this up. Okay, here we go.
We've argued before the Supreme Court. Alan Dershowitz has said, even though he disagrees with you politically, you're one of the smartest debaters and students he ever had. Am I right on the Constitution?
John, you are absolutely right. What we are seeing across the board in the legal system is the weaponization and the politicization of our legal system. In over 2 centuries of our nation's history, a president has never been indicted, a former president has never been indicted. In just over 1 year, Donald Trump has been indicted 4 times by partisan Democrat prosecutors who hate his guts. On top of that, you have the ridiculous civil lawsuit by Letitia James, a partisan Democrat who ran on the promise to, quote, get Donald Trump and got a $450 million judgment against him. She wants to take $500 million from him for an offense that injured nobody, that there was no harm, and that the supposed victim who made money on it were giant international banks. It is absurd. And here's the most important thing to understand. It is not just that Democrats hate Donald Trump. They do, to be sure. But the real target here is you, the American voters. This is an assault on democracy. And Democrats love to beat their chest and say we're defending democracy. But the reason all of these cases are being brought is because Democrats are terrified that the voters in November are going to reelect Donald Trump as president, and they're trying to bring the entirety of the legal system to stop the voters. This is the greatest assault on democracy, literally, in the history of our country, and we're seeing it with every elected Democrat quietly applauding and celebrating this assault.
You know, where's Merrick Garland? Don't we call the department he heads up? It's called, correct me if I'm wrong, the Department of Justice. I believe in equal justice under the law, equal application of our laws. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, in every one of those Trump Organization deals when they were applying for loans and applying for insurance policies, there was a disclaimer in every one of them saying, don't use our valuations. By the way, nobody lending hundreds of millions of dollars or insuring hundreds of millions of dollars in property would ever go with somebody else's valuations. They have a fiduciary responsibility to do their own. So you have a disclaimer in there saying, don't use our valuations. And then, if this whole case is about valuation, can you explain to me how the judge to this day is still adhering to a value of Mar-a-Lago at a mere $18 million, when in fact you can't get you can buy a 2-acre lot on the ocean in Palm Beach, Florida? That's $200 million. This has 22 acres. It has the intercoastal. It has the ocean. It has a historic building. It's got 2 clubs. And I might add, it's in pristine condition with 50 some odd bedrooms and bathrooms. So you tell me, Senator, does Merrick Garland not have a duty? Does he not see what's going on? Are judges like this allowed to sit on the bench and put out $500 million in fines? Really? Is that our country?
Look, of course Merrick Garland sees what's going on, but he wants this to happen. Merrick Garland is the most politicized attorney general in history. This Department of Justice has been weaponized. And listen, I want everyone at home to think about, in terms of what Letitia James argued. She says that Trump overvalued his real estate. Well, think about it. How many of y'all have ever gotten a home mortgage? If you get a home mortgage, you go to your bank and say, you know what? I love this house. It's really pretty. The backyard, I love the flowers and trees. I think the house is worth $10 million. Now, is there a bank on earth that would say, okay, if it's worth $10 million, we'll give you a $10 million mortgage? No. They'll send an appraiser, they'll look at it, and they'll tell you, this is what it's worth, and we ain't giving you a penny more. In this instance, the victim was Deutsche Bank, a global multi-billion-dollar company. They know how to value real estate. Their testimony at the trial is they thought these loans were great loans. They were thrilled. They said Donald Trump was a whale. They made money on them. They wanted to make more loans just like it. And you mentioned Mar-a-Lago. The idea, you and I have both been to Mar-a-Lago. It's an incredible property. The idea that it's worth $18 million, you can't buy a hot dog stand in Palm Beach for $18 million. When I last saw Trump at Mar-a-Lago, I told him, I said, I'll tell you what, Mr. President, I'll give you $20 million for it right now. I don't have $20 million, but if you say yes, I promise you I can raise it in 60 seconds. And of course, he laughed because it is absurd. It is a property that is worth hundreds of millions of dollars. But look, that smarmy, sanctimonious, smiling judge is a vicious partisan who hates Donald Trump, and he loved, I'm going to take $500 million from you because I hate you, rule of law be damned. And did one Democrat in New York speak out against it? And by the way, who in their right mind would do business in New York? Because you know what? First, Letitia James comes from Donald Trump, but the next business owner who ticks off the Democrats in power, they're going to come and take millions from you. This is a catastrophic decision for the rule of law in New York.
Yeah. Senator Cruz, and I want people to understand that Chuck Schumer has made Senator Cruz his #1 target, and literally tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars are going into Texas to smear the senator. Senator, we need you back. I'm not very happy with a number of your colleagues for not being conservative. You have been a staunch, steady, conservative voice and a fighter. We need you back in the Senate. So we appreciate you being here.
And I'm seeing people on the side of the Democrats saying that Trump is getting favorable treatment in the legal system, pointing to the reduction in the bond that he needs to post only $175 million now, only, and the extension on that. So some people saying it's a whole different set of rules for Donald Trump. They're taking it way too easy on him. But I don't think I've seen anybody take more legal abuse than that guy in the U.S. system at all. Unprecedented. So yeah, I think it is a dual system. There's one for one set of people and one for another set, and then maybe a 3-tiered system, one separate system altogether for Donald Trump alone. Oh man, it is going to be one crazy summer, I'll tell you that. The RCMP in Canada is investigating that ArriveCan app. So they have confirmed that. This coming from RCMP Commissioner Mike Duhame. he's saying that they are investigating these broad allegations, as they put it, about improper contracting within the government. This after the Canada Border Services Agency referred the issue to the National Police Force. We know that happened last year. And the Conservative Party, again, really capitalizing on that issue. Last month, Pierre Poilievre, leader of the CPC, wrote to the RCMP asking for an investigation into the Arrive Can controversy and the contracting all around it. And now the RCMP confirming that yes, indeed, the investigation is underway. This guy here, back to the bridge, a lot of people saying, hey, hold your horses, put your anchors down, anchors away, American taxpayer. Anchors away, American taxpayer, because why should the U.S. federal government pay to repair that bridge? Shouldn't the company that owns the ship or the company that had chartered the ship, shouldn't somebody else pay? Isn't there maybe even insurance for that kind of thing? We do know this, they'll probably have to rebuild that bridge, and it could take years. Some are saying 4, 5, 6, 7 years maybe before they can rebuild it. And the first order of business is to clear the debris so that they can clear the channel so ships can navigate through there again. Some of them sitting in port right now, unable to get out with all that debris, the wreckage from the downed bridge laying on the bottom of the river. There isn't enough clearance for those ships to get out of there. This guy here says, hey, why do I have to pay as a taxpayer? Why do you have to pay?
Whoa. Whoa. Wait a damn minute. I just saw where your president came on and said the federal government is going to pay for this bridge in Maryland. 100%. We 100% didn't vote on that shit. We 100% didn't decide to take on the bills of a Singapore flag flying ship, all right, under a Danish contract, all right? I'm no good at sit-ups, push-ups, or pull-ups, but I'm outstanding. I'm an old pro at fuck-ups. And if you fuck it up, you fix it. You don't charge somebody else for the fuck-ups of a foreign country. You make the insurance on the ship pay for it. You make the Danish people that it was contracted to pay for it. Hell, it's flying under a Singapore flag. Anybody but the goddamn taxpayers. Have you got to the point, is this government so fucked up that they think any screw up that happens, it's on old John Q. taxpayer? I hope the hell you people are paying attention come November, because this is bullshit.
There's the bottom line for you. There's the bottom line for you. Yeah, who's going to pay? Who's going to pay? Somebody really messed up. How come we're on the receiving end of the bill again? Makes you wonder, doesn't it? Makes you wonder. Oh, another piece of information that's just straight up not true is, what's her name there? There's this woman that they're saying is was the CAO of the company that owns the ship, and she's I think they said the sister-in-law of Mitch McConnell. 6 days ago, apparently, she was killed in a car accident. Let me see if I can find that thing for you. Anyway, I looked into it. Turns out not true at all. Apparently, this woman was the CAO of a shipping company, but not that one. So, not true. Sorry, too many tabs open. Yeah, and here's another post too. About propulsion and the ability to steer. Here, I'll show you this one too. Well, and this is just asking a question. Is it true? Oh, wrong tab. Wrong tab. Lots of clips about it, but wrong tab. Okay, I'll put this up because this appears to be funny.
You can't give us, if you can't give us some financial support, okay, please, give us a credit. If you can't give us some financial support, okay, please, give us a credit. If
Oh, that is funny. Oh, it's funny. Oh my. All right, let's I'm going to here's the other post. This is asking a question, I think, to create even more confusion, honestly. Container ships do not lose their ability to be steered in the event of a power loss. Modern vessels have multiple backup systems for steering, ensuring control even during power outages. How do you propel in any direction if you do not have the engines on? I would say that's not true. Who's driven a boat? I've driven a boat. Have you ever had the engine shut off? You have a powerboat, right? And then you'd want to go this way. Motor turns, propellers turn this way, the rudder. Go this way, that way, this way, that way. Turn the motor off, then turn the wheel, see what happens. The rudders can help, but you've got no propulsion anymore. So you've got minimal control over the boat, if any. Same thing with a huge ship. And you need that propulsion because you have so much weight. Even at slow speeds, you have a massive amount of inertia there with that ship pushing forward. Even if it's only 2 kilometers an hour. There's so much weight at 2 kilometers an hour. Could you imagine if it ran into a brick wall? It would just crush it. Well, at 8 knots and it hits the cement pillar with all that weight, and I don't know what the total weight of that vessel would be loaded the way that it was, but massive amounts of weight. Just crushing it. So yeah, I think they do actually lose the ability to properly steer once the engines are shut off and you lose power. And not only that, if the electricity is cut and we saw all those lights go out, that could affect the systems on the bridge as well. Now, I don't know if they have battery backups in place as a safety for the navigation and controls and so on up on the bridge. They probably have something like that in place, but you have to hope that they were going to be working properly. Here's the other post I was referring to. This is with Angela Chow, sister-in-law of Senator Mitch McConnell, who drowned in her vehicle 6 days ago, was the CEO of the shipping company that owned the massive cargo ship that hit the Key Bridge and caused its collapse just 24 hours ago. Conspiracy? Yeah, it is actually, because I looked it up and that's not true. She was not the CEO of that company. Not at all. It is not true. So, Not going to happen. Not here. Nice try. You almost got me with another one, but it's not true. Not true. And even the cyber attack stuff, man, I'm just telling you, take that with, you know, I would say what I presented here tonight is not saying that that's what happened. I'm saying that this is an area of concern that has been identified by the industry itself. And so it certainly deserves to be looked into further. And even if it isn't the cause of this, still an area of concern that needs to be addressed. Cybersecurity in general needs to be addressed. And with these heightened attacks that we are seeing that have been confirmed, then we all need to be vigilant, and in particular, our governments need to be concerned. And yeah, here's another reference to the April 1st nationwide tax strike, they're calling it. It's being called various things in different parts of Canada. Some are calling it the Axe the Tax protest. Other people spike the hike. Other people calling it just a nationwide tax strike, April 1st. We'll talk more about it in the days ahead. We'll talk more about it in the days ahead. And all this stuff with P. Diddy and the sex trafficking stuff, I've been following that a bit too. They're really ramping that up. I'm not sure where that's all going. I've taken note of it here, continue to follow it a bit for you. A lot of the stuff in that industry and the rappers and the music industry and that end of the music industry, I find it have for a long time very distasteful. A lot of people, you know, in the media latching onto that. It's very sensational, to say the least, and it looks like that could get pretty down and dirty, so we'll continue to take note of it. You can see here Prince Harry named in the P. Diddy sex trafficking documents scandal. His residence is raided, as we showed you the other night, and this making international headlines. This is like entertainment news mixed with reality TV, mixed with social media drama. Here we go.
Just look at the front page of the Sun today. He's making headlines there. He's been named in a U.S. court documents relating to the rapper P. Diddy, whose real name is Sean Combs.
Yeah, the court documents filed in the US mention guests were drawn to Combs's alleged sex trafficking parties because of his so-called access to celebrities and international dignitaries, which included the likes of Prince Harry.
Let's go to Royal and Showbiz reporter Kinsey Schofield. Just look at the front page of the Sun today. He's making headlines there. He's been named in a U.S. court documents relating to the rapper P. Diddy.
So anyway, there you go. And just here in the beginning of this one's going to drag on for quite a while. They're going to make a lot of hay with this. This is good for the media because this is good clickbait. Lots of good stuff on that one for the media. Maybe not so good for the people involved. She's going to get graphic. Anyway, what a crazy time we're living in. Pretty gross stuff, really, all the way around. You know, all this rappers, it's all thug life. It's so cool to be a thug and crap. It's just all crap. No wonder our society is in decline. Satanism and crazy stuff, just no morality anymore. That's not saying I'm perfect, but my God. Where are we at? Over in Ukraine, I mentioned the other night that it appears the attacks on the Black Sea Fleet, Russia, have been more damaging than first appeared, and some indication that Black Sea Fleet may be even having trouble functioning now, because the Ukrainians have been able to kind of go in there and sting in a way that it kind of hurts. But seeing as well, just took note of this. Seems Ukraine damaged one of its own warships, which was taken by Russia when Russia took control of Crimea. One of the ships that Ukraine had ended up back in the control of Russia, and now it turns out Ukraine, that's one of the ships that they actually damaged with a, says here, a homemade Neptune missile. It wasn't sunk, it's just seriously damaged. It's not operational now, according to this information anyway. And I have seen a lot of new information over the last, well, starting yesterday, indicating that there has been a lot more damage to the Russian side and the Black Sea Fleet than previously reported. So just something else to take note of. There seems to be at least one area where Ukraine has scored a few points. But obviously, they are having some problems with resources. They need money, weapons. Let's see. Let's find something here to close things off with tonight, because also I need to tell you, Mike Lindell, he's having trouble. Oh boy. He's in decline, eh? Like, you can see financially he's suffering. I feel for him, actually, because he really kind of took the lead on things for Donald Trump following the last election. Told people that if they could disprove what he was saying about the election, he'd pay, I think it was $5 million. Well, he continues to have some financial problems because of the legal challenges he's been facing, and as he's been defending Trump and really going to bat, taking things even on the offensive. It says he's now been booted from one of his warehouses for his My Pillow company. I guess he had two in, where was this? Was it in Pennsylvania? I'm wanting to think. Where's his, he had two warehouses. Says here, being evicted from a warehouse that, Minnesota, that was right. In Shakopee, Minnesota, being evicted from one of two warehouses he has there because he failed to pay a $217,000 rent bill for one of the two. Apparently, he's pretty much vacated the premises already, but still owes some money, and the landlord, who is not under rent control as far as I know from Justin Trudeau, at least not yet, wants to make sure that everything is finalized, everything is legal, get him out of there. And yeah, he did offer to pay $5 million to anyone who could disprove his claim that Chinese government officials helped Biden in that last election. And then there was a guy who came forward, Robert Zeidman. He accepted the challenge, claims that he was able to disprove things. They wound up in court. There was a ruling that went against Mike Lindell. But as far as I know, Lindell is still trying to get out of paying the $5 million fee. And I'm not so sure that the court ruling is a reflection of reality. But then again, I'm at the point right now where I don't really know what's real anymore and what isn't sometimes, because, as we've discussed, it's very, very hard to figure things out with all the artificial intelligence stuff going on. Well, let's see if I'm going to look for something here for just a moment. And this is beautiful. Okay, so what we're going to do here is I'm going to show you this. Just because it's the first thing that popped up in my head as I was looking for something to just make everybody smile tonight. Here we go. Nothing like a little daredevil action to just brighten the end of your day. There you go. My son, when he was younger, used to do all the BMX stuff, and not for me. Different generation. But I hope that made you smile. It is now 9:57, and I see that Leo is back in the chat there briefly. And I love you, Leo. I do, actually. You might not believe it, but I actually do. And I miss you. I miss you. And it wouldn't be so bad to have you back. You just weren't kicking me in the balls. Don't do that. It hurts. Anyway, maybe brighter days are ahead for all of us, and maybe for me and Leo too. You never know. You never know. Could happen. Love you guys too. Love you all. I'll be back tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on the Maverick News Channel, where we have the antivirus programs for your mind. See ya on the flip side.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.